Hello, everybody. I'm Todd Whalen with Eclipse Building Corp., your contractor.
And I'm Shannon Sheridan, your accountant.
We're here today with Destiny Thompson, spiritual life coach extraordinaire. Tell us more about that.
Yes. Hi, I'm Destiny. I am so excited to be back. This has been a long time coming, so I'm excited to be on this side of the chair. And yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you were very instrumental in the creation of the whole podcast for everybody here.
Oh, it's been full circle because without meeting Shannon, then we wouldn't have been here today. So it's definitely grateful on both ends.
Amazing how the stars can align sometimes. Tell us about how did you guys meet?
So I am a server currently part-time at a restaurant, and I had the lovely ability to wait on these two. And we started chit-chatting like normal because she had such an amazing energy about her, and started talking a little bit about myself and how outside of being a server that I wrote a book, and I was excited to start a podcast. And I could see the kind of like her eyes light up, and she's like, "Oh my God, like I
Like,
want to."
This is Destiny, and you're like, "My name is Destiny."
And of course, the ball started rolling from there. So she's like, "Oh my God, well, I'm super busy. I have all of this stuff that I'm doing, but here, I have credentials to this mastermind class. You learn it, and then you're going to teach me." And I said, "Okay." So I did the class over the course of like 3 days, learned from the basics of how to just start it to the type of topics that you would want to start over the first couple episodes to kind of get people excited. And from there, it was like, okay, well, the book was easy. This is like, okay, how much can I talk in 20 minutes?
Well, what I found, like, what it was just your aura of, your ambition. It was just so alluring where I'm like, that's what I want to do. And you had written a book, and you can tell a little bit about that, but I've been wanting to write a book, and it's been an ongoing process. And you're like, "Yep, I wrote a book," and I'm like, "Tell me more."
Yeah, so that actually kind of stemmed after getting out of one of my long-term relationships, and I went on the journey of like, okay, I'm putting myself first, and I also felt called to help people not have to go through the same things that I've had to learn the hard way, or the hard locks and knives of things. So when I was in my fields, I was like, okay, let me just think about all of these things that I've learned, because this is how I grow. What did I learn? And when I used TikTok, I saw that people were, different side hustles to make money. And someone was like, "Oh my God, just make a journal, make a daily planner and sell it for $7 and make a buck off it." I'm like, okay, that'll take a long time to sell that many books, but hey, let's do it. And then I started thinking, I'm like, why don't I make a book with what I was thinking about? So then I decided to make a self-love discovery journal, where it's basically all of the questions that I had been forced to ask myself to get an answer to, or to understand an experience that I had. And then when you're able to accept yourself, because that's not where change is. You have to accept it. You have to know it first. So it's like this journal brings people to that awareness. And then it's not meant to like kick you in the butt. It's also there to okay, what are we going to do with this information? How are you going to use this knowledge to now move forward? And I wrote the journal in probably 3 days. It took me longer.
Right out of
it took me longer to work with Amazon in the process of using Gmail and sending it in files I've never heard of before than it was to actually create the journal itself. That was easy. And then from there, it kind of was like, okay, like every single little other hobby that I did, I started a jewelry company. I had, my own bakery. So it's like those little momentums pushed me into, okay, what is this next business that I want to own?
So how many businesses do you have?
So I started out with a bakery, and then I lost my senses in 2020. So that kind of pushed me.
Yes, tell us about that.
That's been what? 6-7 years now in the making.
5 years since COVID.
Yeah, 5 years now with no senses. So I was a little depressed for a while because
especially in a bakery. Yeah, that's going to be devastating.
It's still your senses still haven't come back.
I can't smell too many things. Taste is like I can tell you what my taste buds will sense. So like sweet, sour, bitter. I can taste something that's earthy. Like if I licked a mushroom, I could tell you it's probably a mushroom. But as far as like cherry, strawberry, blueberry, I can't tell you a flavor profile.
Yeah, so that just basically derails your pastry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So from like still paying for college right now, I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Because this is what I was so passionate with for so long. And when I think back, I was definitely, my aunt was like, "What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I want to be a pastry chef." And I was excited, and I did that, and I had a successful business for 4 years. But then when I got here, I was like, let me take a year to learn the area, make sure this is really where I want to be. And in that year is when COVID came over, and the second round of it took me out and took my senses.
Yeah, it changed your career path.
Exactly. So then I was like, all right, what's my next hobby going to be? Because I'm a go-getter. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something else. So that's when I started making jewelry, and I got really excited about working with resin. And I started making cutting boards because, a little chef influence in there.
Right.
And then one day I got a message off of Instagram, and this new store opening at the Citrus Park Mall was like, we love your things. We're starting to open this new store. It's kind of like a concept where, you just give us a royalty and you keep the rest. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds freaking cool. And then I did that for a year. Would I call it successful? It was a really fun experience.
Right.
I learned a lot. I gained a lot of experience of like, okay, now I know what a good percentage is to give to somebody that's fair.
You learned, so you definitely came out on top.
Exactly. And it was something that proved to myself that I'm like, wow, like if I just did that small thing of being excited about making jewelry, the 80-20, right? I did the 20% of doing something that I loved and thinking like, oh, how am I going to do this more? And the universe is like, we got you. We're going to send you this person. And that experience happened. But then that pushed me into creating the journal because now I'm like, okay, I want to help people. And that mindset is really what kind of geared to starting my class at the sanctuary at St. Pete. So
Yeah, because you went into coaching. So tell me about that.
yeah, so I decided for the first time to go on a little wellness retreat that my friend was hosting, and it was just in his backyard. But I could see through the itinerary that they had a decent amount of people that they had come to do sound bath.
When was this? What year?
This was probably last year. It was probably all the things like in that same time frame, about a year, all of this stuff started happening where I'm like putting myself first. I'm going to do the things that make me feel good. And if I'm going to step out of my comfort zone, I have to do things that I don't normally do. So when I got that text, I was like, why not? I'm off from work today. I got nothing to do. He's like, if you help me cook, you don't even have to pay for the ticket. I'm like,
Done.
let's do that. I can cook. I can clean. Perfect. And, it was just a bunch of people who were coming together for the same thing, to just enjoy each other's company, but we're all there because we wanted to be better people. And to be in a room, the first time I felt that was when you're in culinary school. Everybody in there is talking about the same thing. You can walk outside and say paperclip, and someone's going to be like, "Oh yeah, I can make a cookie with that," or "I can cook a chicken with that." Or I know that was a crazy example, but like to be in a community of people who feel and value the same things, and then to have that next experience being in a backyard, sitting on a yoga mat with a bunch of people who are just box breathing, and to just feel the energy of like we're there to raise our consciousness, to raise our ability to be better. And that was what really inspired me.
Yeah. So what happened from there?
So there, I was like, okay, let's do a real retreat. So then I bought a real ticket, and it was over in Miami. It started at 10 a.m. and it was until, I don't remember one time it said it was over, but I know that I was there for 13 hours. I drove over from Tampa.
Like a Tony Robbins event.
Drove over from Tampa, left at like 6 a.m.
Full immersion.
Got there at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Didn't even start till noon. I wasn't upset. They gave me some food. I was happy. And then did the whole day from breath work to yoga to women who were talking about energy exchange and the human design. Like there was a lot of cool things. And I wasn't really soaking in too much of what they were saying. It was really just like, it was giving me confidence to be like, okay, I know that. I know that. And as cocky as it sounds, I think I can do that better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like, but it was really just eye-opening. And from there, it was like, I can create this. I can facilitate this. I can bring people together. And then it was like, okay, now who do I need to meet? Right. So that it became like, okay, now how can I network amongst other people, which is where I'm currently in right now.
So it's interesting. You're in a field that brings together the human element and the human consciousness and human energy. In an age of technology, technology kind of has swung so far in one direction, it's sucked all of that human existence out of us in a lot of ways, and it's become it's not authentic, very disconnected, even though you're connected to the world through your technology. And so, in my opinion, people have kind of started shifting. The pendulum is kind of shifting back over into that human experience, that human existence, that exchange of energy beyond just a few words or scrolling through some videos.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But simultaneous to that, you apply the technology to bring the human existence together in a personal format,
right? Best friend. Never been closer with anybody in my life.
It's your employee, right?
It is, because what I could do is I could take my own personality, and yes, the fact that I'm told I talk too much and I could probably scale things down. Honestly, for ChatGPT, it's the best thing ever, because it goes, okay, this is her personality in one sentence.
But it learns
Act
too.
as a self-love
Yeah.
discovery coach. Write this more professionally.
Yeah,
And then I have, wow, that's me, but my personality, but it looks like I'm a little more educated with my words. So it's really cool. And I think the biggest thing on this journey for me is when people ask, like, oh, well, what makes you different, right? Because once you become a coach, a guru, whatever word you want to put behind your name, it's like, okay, well, what makes you different? And I think that that's what's actually taken me the longest, right? Like, I can sell food. I
you're
can sell a
unique.
rock to a caveman. I can sell ice to an Eskimo, and people have business cards from the restaurant that I'll never have to do with. But when I'm like, okay, how do I sell myself?
Yeah, it's called the USP, your unique selling point.
Exactly. And I now realize through the class that I created in St. Pete that, again, it didn't meet my criteria, but now I'm redoing it here. But what I learned is, when you go through life, you have people who just go to a therapist. You have people who just have financial advisors. You have people who just have a coach or just have a mentor. And it's great if you have the resources, the time, the energy, the want to go to any of those. But at the end of the day, it's about all of them. It's about your connection to your higher self. It's about learning to understand your emotions. It's about having somebody that you trust to guide you in the right direction. But when you break it down in segments, right? If you just go to church, you're not learning about money. You're not learning about your emotions. You're being segregated into learning one thing, whereas, like, I don't like the word religion. I like spirituality.
Right.
Religion is a box that you either fit in or you don't. Either you make it in or you don't, whereas spirituality is kind of like you are who you are.
Yeah.
And when you come back to self.
We call ourselves Roman Catholics because we roam from here to there.
Exactly. And that's
But
awesome.
yeah, I agree with you on that, because to me, all rivers lead to the sea, and who is it to say that this religion is you got to do this, or this religion is you got to do this? To me, I feel like God is inside you, or Allah, or whatever the universe spiritual is inside of you, and you can always go to that. You don't have to go through a priest or whatever to say 50 Hail Marys and pray for the Pope.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of grown up into, as well as hard Baptist and everything else. And your religion's wrong if you don't say this. So for me, the spirituality part is we're all connected, we're all one, and connection is a huge part of everything. And too many people get so caught up into the red tape of religion that they actually exclude the whole purpose of religion, of being connected to everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, I never understood why you had to go to church to speak with God.
And that was me growing up.
Or you had to go to a
us
specific
growing up.
church or synagogue or mosque or any specific location to speak to God.
For me, it was believing. Why do I have
Right.
to believe a
And
certain
then
thing?
every religion, they all talk to God.
Exactly.
So
They talk to
we
a
all talking to
higher
the same
power.
God
Or
here,
Allah,
like, right?
or-
Or
well,
you
the
know, if
Buddhists
I
are
go to
different.
mosque,
The
I go to
Buddhists are
synagogue,
different.
I go to church. They're all talking to God.
But I don't think
I
I
get
think
it.
we're all connected. I think we're all one. And
We are.
too many people get into this. I'm right, you're right, or I'm right, you're wrong, and
I
they
think
don't
it's-
see it.
I
Yeah.
think it's the word, right? Because when I grew up, my aunt forced that down my throat. I had to go to choir. I had to go to
We
all
all
of these
did,
things,
yeah.
right? So it's like, and then I made some bad decisions when I was younger that made me feel like there was going to be a name in hell with me, on the seat with me. So it's like, and I feel like
Guilt.
going through that, it's like, oh, well, I never said I hate God or I don't believe, but there was times where I just refused to say that word because it's like of all the things that I went through. But then when I got older, and I really think it was when I had my first like real close family member pass away, I realized real quickly when I hung that necklace in my car, it went from it wasn't God at all, but it was Pup-Up. Pup-Up's watching me over. Pup-Up
Right.
did that.
Yeah.
And then it's like it's not, and then I realized that it doesn't
who's
have
to
to be
say
it doesn't have to be a person. It's just a higher, like that intuitional feeling, that gut feeling, that is something that's higher than you telling you. And I think the other thing that I've learned the biggest of is the word coincidence. is such a load of crap, because when you break it down in two, it's to coincide means to come together
Yeah.
on purpose.
Right.
So when people use this, oh, it's just a coincidence. Like, no, you met that person for
Mm-hmm.
a reason. You were there at that time for a reason. That thing that just happened for a reason.
Yeah, Bill Gates got that school for a reason.
Exactly. Nothing is coincidence.
It's an energy or a vibration. You know what I mean? You align with certain people's energies. You get
Yeah.
you feel people's vibrations.
Yes.
You know, some people will often say, "Well, I don't know. I get a strange vibe from this particular person." You know,
You go with that.
and yeah, that's your gut instinct, so to speak. You know, intuition, and this is where religion gets confounded, I think, a lot.
Yes.
In that people try and label this into, well, it's a religion, that's God talking to you,
I'm right,
or
you're
it's this
wrong.
and this
I'm
and
right,
this,
you're
and
wrong. I'm
and
right,
you
you're
should
wrong.
somehow pigeonhole or box it all in.
And then they use the
when
word
really
luck.
it's an energy, and the
Energy.
energies should
Yep.
be free. They should be
We're
exchanged.
all
and-
energy. You know, I feel
Right.
like we go back to energy and then we come back. You know, it's just a reciprocal.
And we've proven that years before we're going to believe in manifestation. Like, we already knew that everything is energy.
They've already proven that as soon as life is here, it basically there's a flash of light.
Yep.
It's an energy. It's So where does that energy come from? But that's another topic for
Well,
another day.
that's yeah.
Going back to business though.
Yes. To go, I think back to the original
Circle
question.
it
Yeah, so
around.
to circle back. So what would you tell? Because you've started multiple businesses and everything else, and you've gone down different avenues with each of these businesses, from a pastry chef to a coach to doing jewelry and everything else. What would you give advice to others that are wanting to start a business?
100%. So in my life, I've done everything by the books. So when I tell people who are excited about something, my biggest question is, if I could give you everything you needed tomorrow, what would you do that made you happy? Because I love hearing people's answers. And what I tell them is, like, the minute that you get excited, you're moving in the right direction. The second thing that happens is fear is going to kick in, because you haven't done this before. You haven't been here before. And your brain is developed to keep you comfortable and to keep you safe, but that's not where we grow. So my thing that I tell everybody is, if it feels good, go after it. And sometimes it's not about telling everybody what your plans are, because there are some people you can tell who you might think is in your corner, and then give you a long list of reasons why they don't think that you should do it, or why that they don't think it's a good idea. And I think a lot of people get to that point because they get excited and they want to share. But I just want people to keep it to yourselves a little bit. Be excited on your own. Be excited about all of the little processes. Don't get so caught up about how you're going to get from A to Z, right? If you know that you want a business and you don't have a logo yet, get excited about creating the logo, because in those steps is where you get confidence to get to that Z.
Right.
Because if right now you don't have the blueprint, that's okay. But
Yeah, you figure out the how later.
Yeah, we're big
I've
proponents
always.
of that. You got to figure out what you want. Most people don't know what they
and
want.
that's when you trust in the universe. When you try,
And
when
you follow your heart, your passions. You
Exactly.
figure out what you want real quick.
when you're in something that you constantly feel like every single thing you have to control, then that's generally a good telltale sign that that's not for you. Because if it doesn't flow, if it doesn't come natural, and they say, like, if you love what you do, you don't feel like you're working, right? It's like, we're sitting here in this room. This is technically work, but I feel like the three of us are generally enjoying our time. And who knows, after this, who you interview, the next person you interview might be the person that blows
Right.
up your podcast, right?
It's really it's
Trusting yourself.
It's
you
about
have a way of saying, if you had a magic wand, because he says
Right.
this all the time, if you had a magic wand and you could have anything you want, what would it be?
right.
And a lot of people don't know how to actually answer that, because they go to the how. They have to have the certainty of
How's it going to happen?
Yeah, and I gotta have a paycheck, and I gotta have this, and I gotta have this. So they get so into that scarcity that they never try anything.
But it's because up to this point, many of us have had to live in that mentality. We've come from places where every situation has to be controlled, or we're going to be the ones that don't come out on top. So
Well, we have to control a lot of things here in, when we build a building and
Mm-hmm.
everything. And, but we also have to be flexible. So it was one of my values at one point was consistency and flexibility. And I had a CPA friend of mine who sat there and said, you can't have both of those, and I'm like, yes, I can, because I have, being a business owner, he was coaching from the sidelines because he never had a business. Being a business owner, you have to be flexible. You have to figure out the opportunities that are coming with you.
you have to be willing to learn.
Yeah, and
Right.
shift.
You have
and,
to be
and pivot.
expendable to learn.
Yeah, our last podcast person, we were talking about, learning and everything else. And I was saying that, your first 20 years, 20 to 40, you're learning. And then 40 to 60, you're earning, because now you're the expert, as long as you stay and you don't constantly change fields and things like that. But then the last, 40 or 60 to 80 is giving away, in my opinion. Yeah, but
I think just
You
trusting.
can't take it with you.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
I think just trusting that if you have the urge, if you have the idea, if you have that instinct that this is what I want to do, that I'm a firm believer that if you can figure out what it is you're good at, if you can figure out the things that make you unique, then the third part of that is how do you use that to help others? Because that at the end of the day is the energy that the universe is looking for. What is it that was gifted inside of us that makes us special? And then normally it's the thing that we think that we've been, that we got yelled at as a kid, or that we got made fun of as we
put
were growing
ourselves in our
up,
own
or the
box.
disability
Yeah.
that we think we have. But I really believe that everything that we think is the reason why we won't have it, if you overcome how to not feel that way anymore, your success is limitless.
Right.
Because you've done now, like when they say make your bed in the morning, it's not because it's anything crazy.
Right.
It's one simple task that tells your brain, I accomplished something
It's a small
today that
win.
I said I was going to do today. And I have a girl now who says she gets up and goes running every day because it's hard, because she heard on a podcast, well, if I do one hard thing in the morning, well, I got energy to do all the other
Well,
hard
look,
things.
you could be the victim or you could be the victor,
Yep.
right? You can say to yourself, well, I had a tough childhood. Everyone gets a tough childhood. You think people that come from money get it good?
It's how much are you
They
willing
just
to
have a
learn?
different set of problems. That's all. So,
Everybody has
when you
problems.
come up as a child,
Everybody's gonna have
that's all it
contracts.
is. You have to figure out solutions to your problems when you transition from childhood to adulthood.
Absolutely.
And when you become an adult, you have a choice to make. You can either be the victim or the victor. And you can take all those things that you learn and all those problems that you went through that you found solutions for, and you could be a victor. Or you could say, well, I had all these problems, all these limitations, and so now I'm a victim in life.
And I think
And that's really the choice people
Yeah.
have to make.
And I think that another thing that I've learned, and you said it exactly, is that yes, I've also been somebody who's come through those things, so I can relate to a lot of people. And then there's people who I've met who hadn't seemed to have a very hard childhood, but we're still at the same level of non-acceptance, not
Well,
loving
everybody
ourselves.
considers, what is normal? Like, what is normal? Everybody, one person's normal is someone's totally not normal. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? And that's a little bit of everybody sitting there saying, I think it should be this way, and I'm right, and you're wrong, and everything else. It goes back to that whole loop
Yeah.
of that. So yeah.
And I think if we also as a collective understand that everything that's happening, which is why I say like that word coincidence is such a load of crap, is like everything is happening for a reason. And even the things that we don't understand. I got T-boned and I thought I was in a really good place in my life, like good energy all day, but
Flexibility and consistency, right?
Yeah.
it was a test though. It was a test of my faith to be like, okay. And now granted, I
Yeah.
did come out. It was a really stressful 2 months.
It's true, though. Don't ever get comfortable
give up
in
on
life,
yourself.
because life
Right.
will change at the
That's
drop
the
of
only
a hat.
consistent thing in life
Is
change.
inconsistency. Yeah, yeah.
There's
Yeah,
power in
there's
chaos.
no guarantee.
Yeah, there is
Power and
in
chaos.
that.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I like that too. Yeah.
You can take it, harness it, and I think that's the other analogy is like whatever wolf you feed
Yeah.
eats.
But it's interesting, that's the Tao symbol, right? The yin and the yang, and there's a reason why there's a black dot in the middle of the white, right? Because only out of absolute power comes total chaos, right? So, and out of absolute chaos comes total order. And that's the yin and the yang. That's the whole symbol
Well, you got to have
behind that.
contrast to enjoy what
Right.
you
And the
what you
line in
like.
between
Yes.
is that's when you walk. When you feel comfortable in life, when you find happiness in life, that's when you're balancing the differences between order and chaos in your life. And you're walking that fine line, and it's a very fine line.
And I think also the word success is also another word that's pretty skewed because, you have rich people who think success is money. You can have somebody who has nothing and thinks that happiness comes from loving yourself.
I think the best thing to do is not measure your goals by somebody else's goals.
Yes.
And that's, I think a lot of people, you can be a very rich person and they go, well, Elon Musk is richer. And you're like, but I'm not measuring myself by that.
Yes.
So it's, and knowing what you want, coming back to that is, can you get that? And then you're always moving the goalpost because if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yes.
And so for anybody that is thinking about opening their own business, what would you say as far as roadblocks and your obstacles that you've had to overcome that you would suggest to them so they can kind of navigate around that?
Yes. So I think definitely the fear is always the first thing that creeps in. You start getting excited, you start going down the avenue, maybe you're creating the logo. And then I believe a lot of people see that
They stop usually at
because
the
they think that
first
it's going to be
sign of
hard work.
issue.
They go, oh, this is going to be hard. And I think that when you get to the point when you start saying, oh my God, this is going to be hard, I don't really think that that's what you're meant to do. Because I feel like when you're aligned with that thing, I want you to re-ask yourself, why do I think I want to do this? Am I doing this because my family will think I'm cool? Am I doing this because my friends will think I'm cool? Am I doing this because I think I'll make a lot of money? Because at the end of the day, you'll make a lot of money doing something you love to do, but you're only gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna
Look, you could make $1 billion a year selling cigarettes,
There's
but you
billion
probably
dollar-
won't feel real good about as a human being, knowing that you're
Exactly.
killing
Exactly.
your customer.
Well, and I will say there is pride in earning, like hard. Building buildings is hard work.
I was gonna say, but the positive
But-
side of
Yeah,
it.
But-
physically laborious.
However, but it's the thrill of overcoming and the obstacle that we always have
the
in construction,
challenge.
the challenge of getting through that obstacle. And I think a lot of people stop. I know my parents, they started a basket. This is in the early '90s. They started a basket company, and their first rejection, they stopped. And I think too many people get to that it's too hard. It's too hard. And then they stop. They don't have the follow through. They don't know what they want. And when that first obstacle or that second obstacle, because honestly, in business, you're going to have an obstacle all the time to overcome.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Well,
was me and
whether you think you can or you can't, you're right either way.
Right.
I mean, I kind of did that a little bit with my class because the other things, again, I might not have done them forever. I did the jewelry thing, had the year, decided I wanted to do something else, but I would still call it successful. But what I wanted to piggyback was like, yes, when it gets hard, it's just, again, you said it too, like somebody said, oh, that's not going to work or they don't like it. And you have to believe in yourself more than somebody else you want to believe in you, right? Because that person made you feel that way because
Right.
you weren't that hard cut on
It's-
yourself.
so it's
You have to believe
right.
so much that this is what you want and that this obstacle is only forcing me to decide whether or not I want this.
And you can
because you will
pivot.
find a million reasons why
Right.
it's too hard, why you won't do
Yeah.
it, why you're not good enough. I myself still have a little bit of imposter syndrome of like,
Well, and you
am
can
I
burn
confident?
yourself out. I got burned out in my accounting and tax firm, and I had up to 400 tax returns, 30 to 50 monthly bookkeeping clients, and I was having to deal with the staff, and and it was just too much, and I got burned out, and so it wasn't a failure. It was just I need to pivot, and by us pivoting, like last year, we ended up growing 400%. So it was the
Right.
right
It's
path.
redirection.
And I feel much happier. I'm less stressed.
That's trusting
But
the process,
even when you're
trusting that
pivot-
this is going to work,
Right.
even though now that you look back and it didn't work out in
Right.
the way that you saw it
Right.
working. But
But then you switch, and then I knew what I wanted here, and now I'm happier this way.
or let's say you get to the people who get
It's the
past the
options.
fear and they do try and they get to that actual first hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, and then they start questioning, well, nobody came. Am I supposed to be
Right.
doing this? Nobody's listening. Am
Did
I
I
really
make the
supposed
right
to be doing
decision?
and then-
Was this
They
does
start
this spur of the
creating these
moment?
stories in
Was
their
I
head.
just chasing a shiny object? You know, it's interesting when I came to Tampa on a fluke for business, and I fell in love with Tampa as soon as I arrived here. But when I decided 6 months after arriving here on a fluke for business, I decided about within 6 months that I wanted to live here, that I wanted to bring my business here, that I wanted to grow Eclipse Building Corp here. And everyone that I suggested that to, everyone that I brought that idea to, unequivocally told me, that's a stupid idea. Who do you know in Tampa? You don't know anybody in Tampa.
Everything's
Nobody
here.
knows you in Tampa. Why would you move your business to Tampa where nobody knows you? You've been here in South Florida forever and a day.
I got the same thing when I
And-
sold my clientele.
Right. And
See
so,
that?
and that almost reinforced for me that this has got to be the right thing to do. When everyone is against it, maybe this is actually the best thing. And
everyone's
it was.
against
It turned
but
out to
I
be
still feel good. Yeah.
right. I knew in my heart and my
Yeah, I think
soul
that
that this was the right
It
decision,
comes
no matter
back
who
to
said
your
that to
inner
me.
side where you feel like I would go And I would go, Lord, I know you wouldn't put me on this path if I wasn't meant to be on this path, because I feel in my heart that this is going to work out this way. It may not, and it never works out. You have this line of this is what I want. But by the time you get there, you're zigzag, zigzag, zigzag. But it's the journey. It goes back to it's the journey, not the destination.
Yes.
To just shift just a little bit, you're not originally from Tampa.
No.
So tell us, so let's just back up real quick to a little bit. What ultimately brought you to Tampa, and what has kept you here growing your business and continuing to work with the community here in Tampa?
So the typical things why people move to Florida, the weather.
Where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey.
Jersey.
Yes, and
Jersey
I was a
girl.
very independent woman, so I was sick and tired of shoveling snow.
And you just had this destination rather than California, rather than Texas.
I did all of my normal census research, and I narrowed it down that it was going to be Clearwater, Tampa, or St. Pete. Now, when I chose, I had actually thought I was going to choose Clearwater just based off of what I could see, the beaches, and all the things that you could do. But then when I got down there, I chose it like right off of Almerton. So it was like, this is a typical, resort town. This isn't really where I want to go. So then I was like, okay. So the next day I was like, let's go to St. Pete, and fell in love with downtown St. Pete. I still to this day can't find it. But the reason I chose St. Pete is there's a hospital or some building, St. Pete's filled with artwork. There's like a 3D Band-Aid looking like it's flowing off the side of a building to kind of signify that it's a hospital or a doctor's
and you
office.
still can't find it.
I still can't find it. And to this day,
We'll
I
put the
made it
internet
up.
trolls out there on the search
Someone
for it.
help me find this Band-Aid. But I was like, this
huge
place is awesome. There's a 3D Band-Aid hanging off of a building. I'm like, this is where I need a
The
camera
Band-Aid is
now.
what did
The
it for
Band-Aid
you.
is what did it. And I swear to you, it
Band-Aid,
is a story that's going down. I swear, even if I made up this Band-Aid, I don't know. But and I was like, okay, this place is really cool. So I went back after the week, started making plans, started figuring out when I could get people into the house, and
That was it.
$8,000 later, cash. I was like, I had a pod
Back
here.
to U-Haul?
Oh no, I did a pod.
Oh, you
I had
okay.
a whole
You should
3-bedroom,
pack-
2-bathroom
shipped a
house.
pod.
I had shipped that thing.
So what's in your future?
So right now I'm developing I have my first beta client to kind of help me create my framework for my coaching business. But then I think the fear is still public speaking, which I know is my calling to get on stage to tell my story, because I know that
TED Talks.
the things, yes, that I've been through are going to be the things that inspire people to not give up, to no matter where you came from, that it is about trusting yourself more than anything. It's about believing in your higher power that's guiding you. It's about learning about money, because money is not evil. I hear so many people just at work, it's like, once you become aware and you'll start teaching your things, like you can't say I want money or I need money, because you're literally telling the universe that you need reasons why you need money, whereas it's like you have to say I have it, I got it.
Right.
And
You have to
it's
have a knowing.
It's a
exactly,
tool at the end of the day, you
Yeah.
know.
but it's a
and
muscle,
it's a
Exactly.
muscle,
because your
right.
subconscious goes
And
back to
right.
I don't want it,
And it'll
or
simply just make you more of who you already are.
Correct.
If you're a selfish person, more money is just going to make you worse.
or even just the simple
If
thing.
you're a giving person, you're just going to be more philanthropic.
Exactly. And like the servers at work, they'll be talking. And now that I've been listening to Love Money, Money Loves You, I'm about 30 minutes out of finishing that audiobook. And honestly, like just the simple things that I knew I couldn't say I'm broke. I knew that that's a very negative thing. And that took me a very long time to not say every time I couldn't afford something. I'm making air quotes.
Yeah.
But then
And a coach, Tony Robbins, a coach of mine, Natalia, she was like, it's not that you don't have the resources, you're just not resourceful enough.
Yeah.
yes.
So you either have the resources or you have to be resourceful. And if you want something bad enough, you will get it. But if you don't, it goes back to that saying of, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
Henry Ford thing. Yeah.
And I think that me coming back to my coaching is when I had to figure out what made me different is I'm the holistic approach to all of it. I'm not just a counselor who asks you about a therapist who's just asking you about your feelings. I'm not just a mentor who's telling you what to do, but not asking you about how it's making you feel, so, and I'm not just, some spiritual guide, and I'm not just a financial advisor who's not asking you how you feel or if, all of those things play. So it's like when they come to me, it's all of it. It's what are your limiting beliefs about money? Because we got to start with that right now. We can't manifest things if you're already in the negative. So we got to
Right.
first bring the awareness out to be like, okay. And I realized that my fear was coming from how to help people. I didn't know what to say. It's not about me. I got to listen, and I'll know how to help because of pretty much, I feel like any person that would come to me with their problem, whether it's you're a super rich person and you're just looking to be happy, because going to that wellness retreat, that's who I was surrounded by. I was surrounded by a bunch of rich people who
Who are
were there to
unhappy.
just be like, take my money and show me
Right.
how to be happy.
Right.
And in my mindset, before I went to that wellness center, I'm like, I got to find all the people who are sad.
Yeah, you get lost on your journey
those
of life.
people aren't. But they're not ready. They're not.
Right.
They're
When
not
the-
ready.
when the
They're not looking for
student is
change.
ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I feel like
And what do you love about coaching?
I love seeing the transformation of their energy, because being an energy reader, and an empath, I can already pick out the most sad or angry person in the room. But going through everything that I've been through and having the mindset that I know what it feels like to not have anybody root for you, to all of the negative things that come up with not having such a great childhood, that it makes me excited to see that my wisdom and the things that I went through are serving a purpose higher than me just figuring out what the reason was growing up or what I had to learn about myself, that now I actually get to see that I understand how to help people reach their higher self. They're going to be more confident. Following the narcissistic abuse Facebook page of both women and men are in that Facebook group, it's like I can almost like start to cry, because I see like the chaos that we put ourselves in because we haven't gotten the confidence to be like, I deserve better.
Right.
So for working with me, it's finding out how to say I deserve better. And you're going to be at
We were talking about that in our last interview, where we, mental health. It's such a negative word so many times, and everybody just glosses over it. And it's very important, especially when you've got all this drama going on. Otherwise, you get caught up in the problems. That if you don't take time to just kind of step back and do a self-reflection and kind of just see, what's going on, you get so caught up in the drama, and then you add to it.
And then the latest thing I've learned too is, everything has an effect, right? So right now, most people are upset with the effect of their life, which is why we're anxious, we're sad, we're angry. But what
Or
we don't
drugs or whatever.
exactly, and why we get on those things have their own reasons,
Alcohol,
right? But at the end of the day, if we can understand that we don't like the effect, that gives us the power now. Because now with every effect, there's a cause. So if you don't like who you are right now, tomorrow's not going to change.
Yeah.
So what is one thing you can do, be, or say differently?
2 millimeter shift,
Exactly.
and you don't have to become a wholly different person overnight.
And that's the
If
fear
you
that
just
most
make
people have.
a 1 degree shift, 1% change, if you took one thing in the morning and said, I'm going to do this one thing differently, and you did that consistently, within a year, you would be a wholly different
We don't even
person.
have to put a time frame on it, because
No.
time is irrelevant, right? So it's like that one small shift, that one decision to go to that wellness retreat, which I've never been called to go to a wellness retreat. That one thing completely turned the whole course of my life. Now I want to create retreats. Now I'm a different person. When I got offered, when I met that person that gave me the opportunity at the sanctuary, he and I were having a conversation about how I was going to help him fill the slot throughout that 20 minutes. I'm like, wait a minute, this is my slot. And he's like, well, what? He's like, well, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know, but in 24 hours, I'll have it to you in a text message of what. Now, granted, my
Figure it
class
out.
has elevated multiple times.
Well, that goes back to, don't worry about the how. Worry about, what you want, and the how will eventually come to you.
Exactly. And that's what I kind of want people to pull out of that story is like, I went into that. He called me. The other detail is he didn't even call the right person. I knew that when he called me and told me to come over, it wasn't the person he thought he was talking to. And I even tried to tell him, but he was so busy in his chat that he just avoided it. And he's like, I'll see you at 3. And I'm like, all right.
Awesome.
I showed up. He looks at me. He goes, hi, you're not who I thought I texted. And I said, I know. And he's like, well, everything happens for a reason. Let's figure out why this happened. And it all happened for a reason. And I could have gotten my head. I could have been like, yeah, I'm going to find somebody to help you fill that slot. I could have not been confident in myself. And if I did that, if I went back to old Destiny, none of this would have happened. But in that moment, I was like, no, I know I can fill this slot. I don't know what it is yet, but I feel so called to say yes.
Yeah.
And I went home and did
the
it.
energy.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to find your journal and purchase that and start a process of their
go through
own,
your
or
class or-
connect with you for coaching,
Yes.
how would
So
they find your journal or
the
connect with you
journal
directly?
is international on Amazon, Walmart, and Barnes and Nobles.
Nice,
And it's called How It Can Change the World by Destiny Thompson.
nice.
And it's a journey of falling in love with who you are so you can understand what you want to keep, what you want to let go, and who you want to be moving forward, because ultimately you choose. We can let the world choose, or you can choose.
And if they want to coach,
want to coach, that I'm still currently working on. I have
I'll be on another podcast.
my podcast. I've been talking about myself
What's
a
your
little bit.
podcast?
So my podcast is called Trust Yourself, Grow Yourself. And it's basically a series of sessions of me going through all of the things that I think life has taught me the hard way, that I think everybody should know and be aware of. Life lessons, life hacks, relationship advice, motivation for career, not being stuck in something, or if you feel called to do something else. I know people can't just like stop their job today and go be something else. But the podcast is like an inspirational session that no matter what you're going through, whatever experience you're having, that there's some type of motivational message behind that session that will give you the courage to, I got this.
Well, thank you for coming in today and sharing your journey
Yes.
and sharing your story with us and everybody.
I can't wait to follow up to see how it all goes. That the time factor is really neat when you kind of get to check back up with somebody to see where you're at and everything.
Yes, it's been.
Till the next one.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So thank you for everybody for joining us today. I'm your fabulous contractor, Todd.
And I'm Shannon, your accountant.
If you wanted to learn more about Destiny Thompson, how to connect with her, or how to get her journal, just go ahead and click on the link below, and we can get you that information.
If you want to learn more about Eclipse, click on the link below as well.
Yeah.